Okay, so we're ready now to start on the privacy training. There's a contact sheet that's going around, attendance sheet. Please make sure you sign it. And then there's another sheet you have to sign to say you took the privacy training so you can so they know that you're certified. But we have Nikki Leon here. Nikki is a good girl. We like her. Come on up here, Nikki.
Quick preview after Nikki. I have the target list. Okay, never mind, sorry.
Sit down, Jen. Sit down. Hold on. Okay. So Nikki is going to take us through the privacy training, and just make sure you take good notes. We will send the slides, right? Yeah, we will send you the slides too. But it's just good to know. This is very, very important. The language access is important. This is very, very important because there are legal penalties if you don't follow the rules. So I don't want to visit nobody in the orange jumpsuit. So pay attention. This is our attorney. She's a good girl. Come on, Nikki, go.
All right. Is this on? Great. So I've got a form that I'd like you all to pass around. I know that you already signed in, but this form, by signing this, you're saying I attended the privacy training, I agree to all of the privacy standards that we discussed. So if you could help me, and here's a pen people can use. Okay, well, let's get started. Hi everyone, I'm Nikki Leon. I am an Associate General Counsel with the Health Benefit Exchange Authority, and I'm the Privacy Officer for DC HealthLink. So this is the Privacy and Security Awareness Training, and this is required for you to get involved in our Healthcare for Childcare program. So if we could go to the first slide, our objectives are for you to be able to define privacy, what is it, and explain its importance, understand your role in protecting consumer privacy. You'll learn about penalties for privacy violations, super fun, and learn how to identify and report a privacy incident. So first, let's go to the next slide. What is privacy? It is a set of fair information practices to ensure that personal information is accurate, relevant, and current. So you're going to be working with consumers, prospective consumers for DC HealthLink. So we want to ensure that any information we collect from them is accurate, and it's the most up to date. Also, we ensure that all uses of our information are known and appropriate, and that consumers' personal information is protected. So we're not using it for any purpose. We're using the information for the authorized purpose. Privacy also allows individuals a choice in how their information is used or disclosed, and it ensures that personal data will be used and viewed for business purposes only. And the purpose of all of this is to enable trust between the Health Benefit Exchange Authority, that's DC HealthLink, and the public, as well as all of your organizations. And this trust is especially important. I mean, it's important when we're in a community organization, when we're in government, but it's especially important to the mission of making healthcare accessible to everyone in DC. As the DC Health Link, Health Benefit Exchange, we are the only source for individual and small business market coverage in the district. So we would never want a privacy-related reason to jeopardize this trust. All right, let's go to the next slide. So an important term to understand is PII. So what is that? Well, it's personally identifiable information, and that means any information that can be used to distinguish or trace someone's identity. So examples of that are their name or date of birth or other information, or any other information that is linked or linkable to that individual. So it could be medical or educational, financial, or employment information. And why is this important? Well, we need to safeguard all PII. Next slide. Sometimes we will deal with particularly sensitive PII, and that is information that if it is lost, compromised, or disclosed without authorization, this could result in substantial harm, embarrassment, inconvenience, or unfairness to someone. So let's go to the next point on this slide. For example, you may be contacting facilities and getting information about employees that is not public, So the combination of someone's name and contact information is PII, right? It points to that person. And it's also sensitive because it's not already public. So I think you're going to start out using publicly available contact information for facilities, but as you get more into your outreach, you may be given contact information for individuals that is not public. So make sure you safeguard that information. And also be mindful that when you are talking to people who want to enroll in our programs, they may disclose other sensitive personal information to you. And so you have to be mindful of protecting that information as well. So let's go to the next slide here. As a Healthcare for Childcare grantee representative, you must protect all consumer PII and use the minimum necessary to conduct your consumer education and outreach that is described in your grant scope. So you should understand that it is illegal to use or share PII when not authorized, including browsing out of mere curiosity. So if you come into, someone's contact information through the work you do on this program, or you learn things about them like their healthcare coverage status, or if they mention something about their medical issues, that is to be used only in the context of connecting them with information about our programs. You shouldn't be saving that or sharing that outside. So let's go to the next slide. Here are some examples of PII that you are expected to work with. These are things like address, email, phone number, or the person's preferred language, and it might include other information needed to schedule follow-up appointments or answer basic questions. So as you handle this information, please remember you occupy a very special position of trust for all our consumers, both because of your role within your grantee organization and because of your affiliation with DC HealthLink. You also may encounter some other forms of PII. So for example, someone might share extra personal information. They might talk about their age or their health information during your interaction. But generally, this information is not necessary for the consumer education and outreach tasks that you're performing. So unless it's necessary for that work, the information should not be recorded or retained. So other things might include a person's immigration status or their enrollment in Medicaid, Alliance, or Medicare. All right, next slide. So here's a summary of your role. Remember that you must protect all PII. Also, please specify the reason, the purpose of any PII you're collecting from someone. Just say, this is for further outreach. You should not use or disclose PII to someone who is not authorized to receive or view it. So that could be, make sure you don't disclose it to people in your organization who are not working on healthcare for childcare DC HealthLink issues. And also protect any PII obtained from the individuals you receive as part of consumer outreach. And then finally, you need to immediately report suspected privacy and security incidents and breaches. And I'll give you more information about how to do that. So when talking to consumers or representatives of small businesses, just make sure to clearly explain how their information will be used and explain your role, right? You're not an employee of DC HealthLink, but you're a grantee assisting folks in getting connected to the exchange. So the next slide, you may only use the information provided to you to schedule appointments and follow up with them. So don't save that for other uses. Do not retain PII such as names, contact information, or language preferences beyond the time frame needed to help schedule the person for a healthcare for childcare appointment in Setmore. And finally, even after you leave this role, like as a grantee or if you leave your organization, you are responsible for protecting the confidentiality of any information you learned or that you worked with. All right, next slide. So this is the serious part. Privacy violations have several possible consequences. So as you know, we are an exchange structured under the Affordable Care Act, and under that law, there are special protections for the information we gather when people want to enroll. So these consequences could include employee discipline or termination for grantees and contractors, other liability like fines, and even criminal charges. So, these types of consequences don't tend to happen very often. Usually, it would only be relevant if someone was willfully violating privacy responsibilities, right? Or if you knew about a serious privacy incident and you didn't tell anyone. So to that end, even suspected incidents must be reported immediately. And at the end of the presentation, I will tell you the email box that you can use for reporting. But let's just go through some simple steps to protect PII when you do your work. And this can help, when you're doing your day-to-day work as well. Make sure that emails with sensitive information are encrypted, that computer monitors are out of view so as not to disclose PII to unauthorized viewers. Also, when you get up from your desk, say you're working from home, you can lock your computer screen when you're away from your desk. That way your cat won't jump on the keyboard and accidentally send, a spreadsheet with PII to people from your email. Do not share passwords with anyone. You should be the only person with that information. And also don't write down your password and store it in an accessible place. So you see in this picture, this is what you should not do. Don't write your password on a sticky note and put it on your laptop. Also, secure and label any files containing PII. So if you collect paper documents with lists of people you've done outreach to, keep that in a folder that's covered. Don't leave it sitting out. Keep it secure. And if you're sending an email or, faxes, mails, double check recipients so you don't send to the wrong person. And again, ensure that access to PII is only provided to those who have a business need and are authorized to view the information. So just because someone works for your organization, or even if someone you don't know who says they're from the DC government or DC HealthLink reaches out to you, if they're not part of the team that you know is authorized to work with that information, don't give them the information. Next slide. So again, lock it up. Lock your computer workstation. Lock up any devices you use to do your work so that they are secure, and any documents and files that may contain consumer information. Also, if you have to email a document with a sensitive encrypted attachment, share the password separately if you're password protecting it. You can do that by sending a separate email or telling the person over the phone or using another method to communicate that password. Next slide. Also, you'll be meeting with people. So just make sure when you discuss their information with them, it's not overheard by unauthorized parties, and beware of phishing. So my next slide talks about phishing a little bit. Next slide. Be suspicious of any email that you are not expecting to receive that requests anyone's PII, that says you must take action urgently, or that doesn't look like a legitimate business website. So a good example of phishing that someone I know experienced recently is someone I know just started a new job, and she got a text from someone that said, "This is, Adina Applebaum, the executive director of your new organization. Can you please send me this information?" If it seems suspicious, it probably is. So, make sure that you're only communicating with legitimate authorized sources. Okay, so examples of reportable incidents. So go on to the next slide. Here are some things that you should contact DC HealthLink to report if it involves PII for the Healthcare for Childcare program. So if you accidentally forward contact information to an unauthorized person or to the wrong person, or if you know that someone who is unauthorized gains access or has the ability to access someone's PII, whether physical or electronic. So when I say has potential access, that might mean we accidentally gave someone access to the wrong account, they haven't logged in yet, you should still notify us, right? Things like lost, stolen, or misplaced electronic devices that contain consumer PII. Also attempts, whether they're failed or successful, to gain unauthorized access to a system or its data involving Healthcare for Childcare PII. Or if you and your organization experience something like malware or phishing, that could affect the integrity, availability, or confidentiality of the information we're all working with. And that could include something where there's unwanted disruption or denial of service that renders the security of PII vulnerable. So just a few more slides here. One other potential privacy threat is something we call insider threat. And hopefully this is something you never have to worry about. But an insider threat is defined as a current or former employee or contractor or business partner who has had unauthorized access to an organization's network or system or data, and they intentionally misuse that access to negatively affect the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of that information or information system. So there are many different potential indicators of insider threats. The most important here is the one that's labeled B, attempts to gain access to information not required for job performance. So if someone's asking for private information that doesn't seem relevant to their work, that should be a red flag for you, and you should not grant that access. And obviously A through F have other serious actions that a person might take in the workplace. These should just be red flags generally, but if they seem to affect the security of data, please report those types of issues to us. Obviously, don't share us your personnel issues, but if there's something that you think would impact the security of healthcare for childcare data, we need to know that. So finally, the effects of compromised privacy. The reason I do this is not just for legal compliance, it is because it threatens the well-being of the people who rely on us as an agency, and can also damage our reputation and the trust that we build with the public. So here's the information you've been waiting for. Next slide. Do not investigate the incident on your own. So if you come into any potential privacy incident, please report it immediately to the HBX privacy officer. So that could be any case where someone unauthorized is accessing or attempting to access PII. It could be an accident where someone who's not authorized may potentially access it, or it could be something that threatens the security of the system, right, that's housing that data. So here is our privacy officer email box, and it may be difficult to read on that slide, so please write it down and we'll email these slides to you. It's dchbx.privacy@dc.gov. dchbx.privacy@dc.gov. So you should please reach out to that email, and you can follow up with a phone call. That's my work cell, and I always keep it on in case there's a privacy incident. So we'll give you these slides. You might want to print out this slide just so you have it. And that's it. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to, yes.
I'll remember. I wasn't going to start talking yet. Good morning.
Good morning.
So question, you said we're not allowed to use or store information prior to after we're dealing with them for the Healthcare for Childcare grant. How does that work when we're maintaining relationships with the people that we're helping to enroll?
Right. I mean, while you're working with them, you're probably going to need to hang on to that contact information, right? So you can keep contacting them. That's permissible. And if you have specific questions about how to store the information, we can follow up online based on what technology you have available from your organization. And you can talk to me and Jen and India and other people working on the program. But yes, to make it clear, it is permissible to work with the information you need to work with. I think that's a great question. You shouldn't be afraid that someone gave you their phone number or their name. You need that information.
And a follow-up question, so for, let's say, since we visit, we already have a relationship with them, we already have our own database with information stored. Is that allowed because it was prior to this?
So we're expecting you not to retain information that you may have gathered, but if there's an organizational practice that you'd like to discuss with us, let's follow up.
Yeah, that too, but also like, what if we already had the information? Like,
If you already,
let's say we're visiting
great
the center that
question.
we already know.
Great question.
We have your number already. We have all
Totally. If it's someone who's already in your database, that's information that you have independently, and so you should just handle that in accordance with your organization's rules. Yes, good question.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Because this came up at our own agency recently. If you're walking around in a book bag with a book bag or tote bag or whatever, and you've got a list of clients that you've worked with, and maybe you're keeping track of who's used the language line, and your bag gets swiped,
That's a really good example.
what happens? What should we do?
You should email that address that I gave you and call the number right away. And also you should, hopefully your organization has protocols if you're using a laptop to lock it remotely, but anything you can do, like file a police report, I'm not making any comment on the role of law enforcement, but that's something that our federal oversight partners will ask us. They'll ask, did you file a police report? So we need to secure and recover the device as soon as possible if we can, and most importantly, DC HealthLink needs to know as soon as possible, because we have a short time frame when we're supposed to report those incidents, within 1 hour of learning about it. So, and here's something I learned. If you get a new car and you have one of those key fobs that automatically unlocks your door when you're near the car, be careful, because that could, if you have something in the car, your stuff could suddenly be unsecured and you wouldn't know it. So in general, don't leave your electronic devices sitting in the cabin of your car, even if you think, I'm right there, nothing's gonna happen. We've seen it happen and people get stuff stolen. So that was a very good question. Thanks, Jen. So hopefully that that worksheet has, not worksheet, chart has gone around where you can fill out your name and organization and your signature, just demonstrating that you attended this presentation. Does anyone have it? Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, so if you haven't signed that sheet, that's specifically a sheet that says I attended the privacy training, please make sure you get that and you sign it. But otherwise, that's all for me. Thanks.